Ich denke, die Avalanche ist gut. Especially from a supply chain
Aber
side.
generell für die Linie kommt man nicht so, es ist recht viel Metallabfluss.
So, Jetforce is the first system to use a lithium-ion battery and a fan instead of the cylinder system. And what we get with that is we get the ability to recharge it by plugging it into the wall. Obviously, that's really easy. You also get the ability to travel with it anywhere in the world with no hassle. So it's essentially the same kind of restrictions that you would have on a laptop battery. And then you get the ability for self-diagnostics. So I can tap the button. When I hold the power button in, it actually runs the fan and it runs a self-diagnostics program. So it can tell if the system is fully functioning, if anything's wrong, or if there's a battery misconnection or anything. And if everything's good, I get the green light. So no longer do you have that sort of like gray zone of confusion about whether or not you screwed the cylinder incorrectly or attached the trigger mechanism right. You get the green light, you're 100% good to go. Now, with the ability to recharge, I can also practice. So we talk about practicing with even shovels, probes and beacons and everything in safety. We talk about practice. But up until now, there's been barriers to practice because of cost and finding another cylinder or getting it refilled. But at any time I want to, if I'm practicing, I can pull the trigger. Anytime I pull the trigger, I get a mandatory 9 seconds of that full speed inflation. That's hardwired into the system. After that first 9 seconds, I can actually hold the power button down and stop the deployment, but it still remains active, and if I needed to, I can hold it. For the first minute, we call that the active burial phase, and it runs between 150%. What that enables you is that first minute we can actually recover from punctures and tears. So small tears or holes, we can actually keep the bag full and keep it at 200 liters. Any slide that lasts longer than a minute, you're not going to survive anyway, so we don't worry about that. What we do is for the minutes 2 and minute 3, we just maintain the volume, and part of that is the CE requirement for maintaining volume to the 3-minute mark. The other option or the other opportunity there is that by keeping the volume to 3 minutes, you're protected from a secondary slide. So if anything came down, or if you wanted to go look for other victims and pull the trigger, the bag stays full and you're protected from another slide. We are using a larger bag, so when you have an infinite supply of air, there's no restriction to the bag size. So we ran a 200-liter bag instead of 170 or 150 because inverse segregation works on volume. By having a larger bag, the potential is there to sit a little higher in the slide. You have a little bit more impact protection. So if something's coming at you from the side or from above, you have a little bit more of a halo of protection. And then lastly, if you do get a puncture or tear, you're starting off at a slightly higher volume. So we last a little bit longer with that effective volume. You can actually hear the bag leaking a little bit. We don't have to worry about sealing the air as much because we do have that fan, we can keep refilling. So the bag is actually, even though it's larger, the packed fabric is actually a lighter weight fabric and it has a higher tear resistance. We worked with Cordura to create a higher tensile fabric that's based on car airbag fabric. So it's stronger, it compacts more, and it's larger. And then at the 3-minute mark, after we've passed that point in the system, we're going to suck the air back out. And that enables us to do a few things. One, it makes it a lot easier to repack. So one, it's a lot easier to repack. Now, if I were partially buried, having the bag, deflate actually allows me to get myself out a little bit easier. And then if I were fully buried, it opens up the possibility of being able to have a large air pocket immediately behind your head. Now that's, it's hard to prove that, but it's obviously, it's not going to hurt anything, and you do have the option or the possibility of having more breathing space. Coming from a climbing company perspective, we were really not interested in having a very specialized folding system because we felt like that was an opportunity for user error, and we wanted to make it really idiot-proof. So we just stuff the bag in, zip off the coil zipper, reset the trigger mechanism. So instead of Velcro, your personal protection equipment should not rely on the vagueness of Velcro. So we created a mechanical clip system that when you pull the trigger, the cable actually moves up and releases the pins, or releases the clips. So we wanted it to work the exact same, like the 30th time you pull the trigger or the 50th time you pull the trigger, as it did on the 3rd time you pull the trigger. So the system is repacked, still armed actually. I have 75% of my battery left, which is roughly 3 deployments still. I could pull the trigger again if I needed to. I could get back in, go on the rest of my multi-day trip, or at least get home and still be protected. The system packs tightly up against the sidewall, so we wanted the pack to be very high functioning. You can see it's actually, the bag is kind of patterned loosely, but as soon as you start loading stuff into the pack, it pushes away and creates more volume. The weight of the system is this one is 3.4 kilos, but most of that weight is in the battery, and so we put it low and we put it right up against your back, as close to your center of gravity as possible, so the bag skis, it rides very, very well. And then lastly, just a small recharge plug here, hooks up to a wall adapter with an international plug, and the ability to recharge it at home without taking anything out of your bag. So you can repack it, rearm it, redeploy it, and then recharge it without ever having to take anything out of your pack. So you never, if you're like me, you start taking stuff out of your ski pack and then you lose it and you forget it on the next time, and I'm still trying to find my multi-tool. The bag itself, needs to be high functioning as well. So diagonal ski carry, of course. The upper strap the strap wraps under the airbag and attaches to the frame, so you can deploy it with the skis attached, and it's still a nice secure carry. Still clean up and away. And then lastly, the helmet flap can either go up and hook into these little loops, or it can actually go under if you have skis on here. So the option to carry a helmet and skis at the same time. And then of course the PLA carry as well. A little bit of organization across the top here, and on the side, and hip belt pocket there, and the leg strap pocket comes out of its own downward facing pocket off the waist belt there. We have 3 styles with the BD line. So the 11, 28 liter in this one, and then a larger one at 40 liters. And then Peeps is also doing, we work very closely with Peeps to develop the electronic system. So, they've been bringing electronics into avalanche terrain for the last 40 years. So really it's it's a perfect match between BD and Peeps to bring this to market. And they have a 24 and a 34 liter pack that are unique. So, this one is 850 euros is the sort of middle of the market retail price. Any questions? It's a lot of stuff. It's kind of.
You can buy one bag. You can buy like the 11 and the 40.